Welcome to Venture Unscripted, a podcast where we talk with founders and entrepreneurs about their journey from 0 to 1.
Hi, I'm Josh Barker. Welcome to Venture Unscripted today. Today I have with me Ron Neary, and he's an experienced business leader with a very unique background. I'm really excited to talk to you today about it, Ron. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Why don't you just give us a little bit of background, who you are, and where you've come from?
Well, I've been in the business world for pushing 30 years now. It's funny, you wake up one day and you think, wow, it's been almost 30 years. But I've had various roles in a lot of different organizations, a lot of different types of organizations, everything from leadership roles in sales, marketing, product development, operations in publicly traded private companies, private equity, which is a big trend in recent years. Working under that dynamic is definitely exciting. And then some family-owned businesses as well. And also a company that I co-founded, an e-commerce business that we built over a 3-year period.
Well, varying backgrounds. I love it. It's just quite diverse. So help me explain your journey. Like, where did you start, and where did you end up kind of moving towards? And yeah.
Well, like anything, early in my career, I started out, I'd volunteer for anything.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm stepping forward and volunteering. And then eventually that evolved into being voluntold.
Right.
From different people that I reported to over the years. And I guess over the last 20 years, it's really evolved into really becoming more of a change agent.
Yeah.
More of a fix-it person, where there were either a business or segments of a business that were having trouble,
Yeah.
or simply needed process improvement or revenue improvement. So I would get tapped on the shoulder, and getting into those roles, they tend to be a little bit short-term.
Yeah.
You dig in, you roll your sleeves up and you dig in, and you really try to get to root cause, and then you try to keep as open mind as you can, because the solution that you may think going in may not be the one you end up with.
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. So what would be in your career, you would say the milestones, like, hey, I worked here and here's the things I learned, and I worked here and then I learned this kind of, what would you say those big milestones in your career have been?
Personal milestones would be going from being part of a team, and the big milestone is becoming a leader with people responsibility. And people responsibility in beginning it may be 3 or 4, and then evolving into multiple department responsibility, and then into really broader business unit responsibility with many, many people that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
So I take that responsibility very, very seriously. And then eventually having company responsibility for a functional area, whether it's in sales and marketing or whether it's leading company sales team.
Yeah. Tell me about some of those companies you've worked for, and what have you done, and dive into some of those.
Well, a couple of them. One of them was a company that was looking to reach a family-owned business was looking to reach a milestone of a certain revenue number. They wanted to reach 40 million in their 40th year. And they never had a person on their senior management team that was in charge of sales and marketing before. Incredibly intelligent electrical engineering people, and very innovative, incredibly smart, but never really had anything formalized in terms of sales and marketing before. So I don't come from their industry. I had no experience in it, but I think they hired me because I had no limitations. I would look at it from a completely clear lens, and they had hit kind of a ceiling for a couple years in their 37th and 38th year, and huge celebration their 40th year, had to hit 40 million in revenue. So I basically block and tackled and formalized some things with some engineers. It was also incredibly fun because it was a global business. So I only speak one language, but I had folks in Brazil, China, Mexico, obviously the United States. And what was so much fun is kind of watch the excitement and kind of the transition and transformation into more of a sales-driven, customer-driven organization. Not that they weren't before,
Right.
but with really the customer really as the bullseye from the starting point.
Right.
So we moved that from I think around when I left, it was really a 24-month on a handshake with the founder.
Yep.
And when I left, we had reached 46 million in revenue from 37. So surpassed the milestone in their 40th year, and then left them in a much better place than when I got there.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like, would you say it's accurate that based on that story, it sounds like the founders were really technical. So you came into more of a technical culture that was focused on the technology side of things. Is that an fair statement?
Very much so. That's actually a great way to put it, because it leads me into one of the other ones that was really one of the most enlightening experiences I ever had. Was I was asked to fix a signature business for a very large company that was acquired and managed under private equity while I was there. And I was tapped on the shoulder to take over general management responsibility, but it was really the opposite. It was very old school thinking. I shouldn't say that, more traditional thinking. It was a really super exciting drywall, steel studs, insulation, really, really sexy, exciting products. But they had traditional methods, but traditionally that industry is very short on technology. So that was really the flip. Some of the solutions there weren't putting together, some of the fundamentals that you would think of from the past, or traditional thinking, business development, business management, sales and marketing management thinking, but really more leveraging technology and pushing, because in private equity, which I love, there's so many great people in that business, and they look at it through the lens of the stakes are high and time is short. So I'm really a very high energy, sense of urgency type of person. So I fit pretty well with them, and they allowed me to really test and learn some things in really the technology realm that really improved our business performance.
And so it sounds like there's a correlation across both of those instances, in which, if you've read the book E-Myth, it's like working in the business. You had these founders, you had these teams that were working largely in the business, but you came on and really helped add a focus of, we're going to be working on it. We're going to work on the business. We're going to drive it forward. And it's, because a lot of times in that E-Myth early stages, the founders might be more hands-on and delivering the work.
Sure.
But it sounds like you really came in and said, like, let's focus on sales and scale it. Let's focus on the customer side. Is that's fair?
Exactly. That's a good characterization, and it reminds me of a quote from a friend of mine years ago. Every small business is the length and shadow of one person. So they start with their vision, and they're also, what I've learned over the years, whether it is in any of, whether it's a publicly traded company with a senior executive that has a specific vision, they're all coming at it from their passion and their past experience. And sometimes I think my value for them has been, okay, let's look at this in a little more pragmatic way from a practical perspective, really almost challenging them a little bit and really looking at it from really all different aspects. They have that vision, and what they want to do is they want to make that vision a reality. And I think my role over the years has been, I think I just kind of stumbled into it. I'm as comfortable working with a senior business leader or hanging out with the guys running around on a delivery truck. So I'm very comfortable with that, and I don't really look at the dialogue with them in a different way. Some of us as younger business leaders get a little nervous or think we need to say the right thing around a senior business leader, but when we're the ones that are deep in the weeds and we're working on it, I think we have an obligation to share with them, hey, here's what I'm seeing, not to necessarily challenge what their vision is, but saying, maybe here's some things to consider along the way.
And to me, what really is sparking in my mind when you're saying all that too is, it sounds like you're a really solid. There's the roles of visionary and then integrator. It's like you're that solid integrator that comes beside this visionary to say, you've got this lofty idea. Let me help you come in and put and make that a reality.
Sure.
Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, and I think, and you and I have talked about it before, really offline, a number of times, is the speed at which things occur.
Yeah.
And when you talk about it in a larger organization, from a practical standpoint, they like to use, whether on a proactive project, I like to think of it in the context of proactive versus reactive. And in my experience, many of us that get voluntold
Yeah.
to participate in a specific special project, we understand the vision. We have to maybe develop the deliverables, and they may change over time. But I think what happens sometimes is it loses its luster because many of us we have full-time responsibilities.
Yes.
But we're tapped on the shoulder because we work for the organization. We're members of the organization. We have our lens through our own functional areas. So, cross-functional teams, right?
Right.
So with cross-functional teams, it's great, but what happens is in my experience, and it's happened many, many times, it loses a luster where you get a little bit of frustration because it tends to take a lot longer than it was originally designed to take, or that was originally thought that it would, because it's a proactive thing we have to do, and we have our regular responsibilities. So, something that we were excited about and really made a lot of progress on in the early stages tends to get bogged down, and then it kind of loses its luster where we get a little frustrated, and even those that may have assigned us to put our teams together or put our team together, even they lose excitement about it, and it just maintains as an idea. It doesn't get tested or executed, which I believe, hey, if you learn about it in a very at the early stages, it's really like what you guys do at City Innovations. Hey, you know what? If I've learned about it and it's exciting and it might solve a business problem, whether it's process or whatever it happens to be, man, let's figure out a way that we can get it in the hands of the users or the people that would have value in it most. And let's test and learn.
Yeah.
Let's learn. Let's get it out there.
Right. And it sounds like you've quite a breadth of experience in taking innovative new ideas, new things in larger corporations. How have you seen that be successful? Because it seems like there's a lot of challenges within new ideas within larger organizations.
I think the irony of it is especially in today's world with everybody thinks, I think some of it is a little bit of a mind shift. I mean, from a personal standpoint, we're all thinking of instant gratification today. And I think even business leaders are shifting and thinking that.
Yeah.
So, the other buzz phrase is out of the box thinking. So I think what's funny in one of my experiences is that one of the businesses I was asked to step in is I think they kind of ran out of options. They were in a situation where they had people that had been in the business a long time, and it's really kind of a funny story. We're in this big room. They're announcing that they're asking me to step in and lead this really signature platform business unit for them. And they all knew I don't have any industry experience in it. And I was standing with one of the owners. And there was one of our colleagues in the group, we had scripted, hey, this is how we're going to message it. This is what we're going to say. Really, the messaging was very important. And one of the owners said, does anybody have any questions? Sure enough, this lady that we all love, she has no filter, raises her hand and says, is he really qualified to do this? And I looked at the owner and I said, you want me to take that question, Rick? And he said, would you? And I said, sure. And I said, I don't know, but we're going to find out and we're going to figure it out. So that as a starting point, I think that sense of urgency in them they want outside the box thinking, but they don't want to lose that traditional. And I think part of it is that's just the way I'm wired. I self-admittedly said, I don't know anything about it, but I'll learn. We'll learn together. I'm going to learn from all of you. So I think it's also channeling creativity from people that may have worked in the same roles for a long time. You never know where that innovation might come from. I think a lot of the solutions come from within. And when they get excited about it, and you have somebody that, whether it's me or whether it's somebody like your team from City Innovations, or even the group from One Bold Step, from a marketing, especially digital marketing, they come at that as from their expertise, challenge and learn, and then push for execution.
That's great. Yeah, and I love how you used learnings. It seems like that was a big theme as you were talking. Is like, how can you don't know, you're not going to figure it out, and how can we learn? So, question for you is, how have you how have you learned about quickly? How do you come up to speed quickly, not only on the business but on the customers? Like, how have you done that?
I think that's a great question, and it's something that, quite frankly, I would recommend for everybody. You know, we all think from recent memory what we went through with COVID. Everybody was working at home. In fact, there's a lot of pain and struggle with people wanting to even go back to the office or back to working in not a virtual world and from working remotely. And I would say the best thing you can do, and I learned it many, many years ago from a gentleman who, boy, he was probably one of the meanest people I ever worked under, but he had this thing that he would say. He said, you always have to have the customer in the room. And, when you build your service or your value for a customer, I learned from him, you have to build it from the customer back. Everybody talks about world-class service, really bringing value, asking yourself as a business, how can we be different and better? The best way that I've learned over the years is you have to go and engage and meet with that customer face to face. I can learn more, and I've really picked this up from business leaders over the years. I had another business leader. His favorite question to an owner was, what keeps you awake at night? Boy, does that really open up
Yeah.
a whole different conversation. What a wide berth, open-ended question. And the other thing that I learned from him, he would come out and travel with me. And I knew he was going to ask that question. And the thing that I learned from him is by visiting a customer, he says, you can understand the emotion even though and how they feel about certain things. You can learn more about visiting their office, their facility. You can learn in such the most minute things you can pick up, but you got to be there. You got to be there, and you got to engage with different people, not just owner, but leaders and even people in the trenches that do it every day. So from my experience, it's really the best way to do that is you have to be there with the customer, and you have to bring that back and keep the customer in the room, whether working in my business, or I'm sure you experience it, you all do, between what City Innovation does with what One Bold Step does. If you're really going to truly bring value, you got to get to that you got to get to that root cause.
Yeah.
You got to get to that root cause analysis, and the best way to do that is engaging with them.
Yeah. How have you gotten the customer in the room, so to speak?
Well, through a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But I think getting the customer in the room, I think there's a couple of ways you can do that. Number one is your sales team. Your salespeople should be experts in their markets. They should be experts. When I say that, they're geographically assigned markets, their market segments that they work in. They should be the experts, and they should be through engagement with their customers. But I also think with that, that's kind of a two-pronged approach. A sales leader, a business leader, no matter what functional area you're in, you can be the head of finance in a company, and you need to get out in the field and travel with salespeople. You need to get out and visit those customers and really put it on as a senior business leader, what I would like to do, what I have done in the past is make sure that people in those other cross-functional areas that really are working inside the four walls, right? Require them once a quarter, get out in the field and visit 3 or 4 customers, spend a couple of days, and ask those simple questions. How are we doing for you? What could we be doing better? They can bring that back firsthand. I think the other thing is, and it's as effective, I think you have to be careful with it a little bit, but bring your customers in-house. Invite them in with your cross-functional group, almost in a panel atmosphere. If some of your customers might be competitors, so maybe you bring them in from different markets where they don't compete against each other, and you talk about best practices. In my experience with that, sometimes the value for them is the engagement and the relationships that they gain with other people that are doing the same thing that are customers of ours.
That's good. Yeah. And what has that yielded when you've invited the customer in the room? Like, what change have you seen happen because of that?
Uh, it kind of brings me back to another thing we were talking about earlier, with either a dry erase board or a flip chart, whatever it is we put a topic out there and capture their thoughts, and literally write down what they are thinking, what we can do better. I think getting together when you bring some customers in like that, it's okay you get together a deck of very open-ended questions, and then you just become a scribe. You let them talk and engage with your team. And as a business leader, I think it's okay you're a scribe. You're capturing their key thoughts.
You're listening, yeah.
There's no greater compliment than to write something down that somebody says. So to do that, and then the end result from that is to take a customer that said, look, here, whatever it is, here's something that you guys could do much better in a communication area. And then it's saying, asking that customer saying, hey, would it be okay if we engage with you and ask for your feedback, being respectful of their time, as we're working towards developing or whatever, changing whatever it is, continuous improvement towards improving whatever thing they cited that we could do better. So I think capturing that in writing and then actually following through, not just having it, hey, we're going to do a customer forum, we're going to bring customers in and they share with us. I think the biggest danger is when you do that, nothing changes. But I think if you ask for permission with them, they're more than happy. They want you to get better. They want to help you. We're either helping them save money or make money. That's pretty simple. So most of them, in my experience, they'll agree to now you have a customer that's actually helping you solve some things, improve in some areas that make you a better supplier or vendor for them.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. And I could definitely see that process improvement, writing those things down, incorporating those, that seems like a very fruitful conversation to have. And then a question I'll ask you as a tangent of that is, have you, out of those sessions, have you not only seen process improvement, but have you seen almost an aha moment or pivot for the business you're working with of like, oh, we're building the wrong thing, we're targeting the wrong thing, we're saying the wrong thing in the wrong way? Have you had any of those aha moments where it's not just a process improvement thing, but it's like actually like pretty eye-opening of like, hey, we need to change some things here?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and what it ties me into a little bit is, and this really kind of falls back in my area of if you're going to, the reason you're going to look at process improvement is, and whatever that may be, is it's all about improving profitability and sales growth, right?
Right.
Improving revenue, improving income. And you look at different financial levers, and there are many companies that they really make some of those, you have your fixed costs, not to get too deep in the weeds from a financial perspective, but you have your fixed costs that you live with every day. They're just those costs that help you, literally you have them. They're static. They're what you have to have to literally be able to function every day. But but the other side of it is those variable costs. And I think the term I've used over the years is the financial levers that you can pull. Some of them, the one example it reminds me of is, it was one where I was asked to step in and fix a business. And the aha moment to me was I was actually really focused on, I was told when I stepped in, you're always getting feedback when you step in to fix or go into a turnaround situation where where the root cause of the problem is not identified. Some of it, you're always getting feedback when you walk into that situation. I was told it's a sales problem. I was told I have too many resources. I was told that it is a service issue. I mean, it took me a little bit longer. And, sometimes when you step into those situations as a business leader, I think the aha moment for me is sometimes when you're asked to step in, business leaders like to make a change just for the sake of making a change, to put their footprint on it. I think the aha moment for me not to rush in. And I'm a little slow. Took me a number of times, a few times to learn that and figure it out. But, asking to step in, and they want that sense of urgency. But I think the aha moment is making sure that when you think you know what you think you've zeroed in and figured it out, take a step back. Take a step back, take a deep breath, even step away, and take another look at it and explore it again. And in that situation, I had some owners that were actually, I think, a little frustrated with me. They said, Ron, are you going to make any changes? Are you going to do anything? And I said, I don't think that I have clearly identified what the root cause issue is. And it's almost laughable because they're also telling me, here's what you need to do. Here's the people issues you have. Here's the service issues you have. Here's what's going on with the sales team. And ironically, the root cause was actually something that even I missed. It was an inventory issue. And the reason it was an inventory issue is because we were in a situation where it was under private equity ownership. And one of the key metrics was days on hand, inventory on hand. Well, what it led to was poor customer service because we didn't have the right product and we didn't have enough of it. That was the simple, it sounds so fundamental. It had nothing to do with technology. Had nothing to do with, it wasn't even a people issue. It was literally that because there was a financial lever that was viewed that you couldn't pull or push that lever, it had to stay.
The next thing that, what I'm wondering is throughout what you're talking about is how, as a consultant, because you're being brought in as, it sounds like, as someone that can help turn around or really scale, hit company objectives as an outside looking in, say, hey, we need to bring you someone else in to help with this. So with that, how do you navigate some of the things that you articulated, which is they think they know what they need, but then you know what they actually need, right? So like they're whispering to you, you should change this, you should change this. How do you navigate that where they're telling you things, this is what we need, but you know deep down maybe some of the things they're saying is like, you don't really need that, you need this?
That's kind of the $1 million question. Because in order to be able to bring or recommend a solution, you've got to gain agreement that that's the real issue. And I think some of it starts by really digging in, really learn by doing and being there. So whether it is, and it really doesn't matter whatever the business is, could be in manufacturing, could be in distribution, could be logistics, e-commerce, whatever the business model is. But I think the other thing is gain a commitment from the ultimate decision maker who is going to decide and agree on what that potential recommended solution would be, to at least to agree that there may be take what they believe, the reason they called you in. They believe this is what their problem is. I have a sales problem. Okay? So I think you got to be careful because taking them at their word is one thing, but gaining agreement from them to let you dig in and explore. And sometimes you bump into some confidentiality issues that they're just not comfortable with. That may make it more difficult, but to really gain agreement from them that you really need to come in and really roll your sleeves up and really identify what that potential problem may be. And sometimes I think the good thing is that, it might not be one thing. It could be
Complex issue.
It could be connected to what they truly believe their problem is. But in working with different functional areas, that helps you really zero in on what that problem is.
It might be a symptom, not the root cause.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How often does that happen where you're brought in to solve, like you use the example of a sales issue and you're like, we have a sales issue, but really maybe you find out it's actually a product issue, which that's the root cause. Then how often is the thing you brought in to fix actually different than the root cause?
I would say it happens quite often, but gaining permission from the decision maker, whether it's owner, senior business leader, whoever, they're also accountable to solve that. So they're motivated to want to solve it, but it's also gaining permission from them to have an open mind. Because the solution, and you and I have talked about it with some of our other friends as well, is, that solution. And today, it could be a technology solution. It could be something that you can solve everybody is comfortable with what they know, right? So bringing in, my skill is probably identifying root cause, system thinking, and being interconnected with the different functional areas, just through my past. But it's also being able to recommend the right resources, because I have a distinct responsibility too. I am not a digital marketing expert. I am not a technology product development expert. I understand the value in what it can do, and at the end, it's process improvement. It's saving time and money, whatever the value may be. But then it's also enlisting the right experts, whether it be, folks from City Innovations or One Bolt Step, whether it's product development and some evaluation on that end, or whether it's really digital marketing, some other marketing resources, whether it's a la carte filling in until they can, it's also the difference in short-term and long-term thinking is, I think you really truly want to set the table for any customer and understand what they want to do. Do they want a long-term person that they're going to put on full-time to be a marketing expert or a technology expert? Or are they more comfortable using it really from a contracting perspective, where they don't want to invest in that and become experts in that specific area?
Right.
So I think understanding that, what their long-term vision is, even from that, can really help you kind of frame out kind of the best approach in the short term.
Really good, solid advice. So what are you working on these days? What's next for Ron Neary? What's that look like?
What's next is I do some work. Like I said, I really, really enjoy working in the private equity segment. It's just such a great dynamic. So I think the fact that I lived under the private equity business world in really a company that went from, when I joined them, they were about a $500 million business. And we were acquired within about 6 months after I joined them. And then fast forward through a couple of private equity ownerships, the goal was an IPO. So we became a publicly traded company doing over $2 billion in revenue. So for me, I'm really kind of focused in that area. Number one, they kind of align with me. I want to do things with a sense of urgency and move fast. They're also incredibly innovative. Their motivation is, it's an interesting market today. When you look at kind of from a macroeconomic standpoint, there is so much consolidation and privately held businesses that are being acquired. Well, for me, some of the personal frustrations over the years have been, I kind of salivate a little bit when I hear, well, this is the way we've always done it. So we all have to change, innovate, and move quickly today.
Right.
So for me, it's a comfort level in working with private equity companies that are acquiring smaller family-owned and privately held businesses. I love working with those owners too. So what I'm doing is working on really kind of 4 key areas for me is startups and turnarounds is one, because I always had the desire to start a business and take what I had learned and see if I could do it, challenge myself. So startups and turnarounds kind of obvious based on what we talked about. The other one is profit and process improvement, which we've also talked about. And then go-to-market strategies. Like you, we've both spent a lot of time in product development over the years. And I think really being tuned in on the market and how quickly they're changing. So go-to-market strategies today, they're so delicate because the way they function or the way they're structured today could be different in 6 months. So that is an area that I really worked on over the years. I think probably more out of just the nervousness of making sure that we were aligned with innovation in the marketplace and even competitors. And then the last one is interim leadership. I have made myself available to step in. I've been asked on a couple to step in as really an interim leader, where the family owner, the proprietor, second generation owner, really doesn't want to stay. They'd rather step back and do what they love to do, whether it's work in engineering in an incubator and not have to deal with the change that private equity, that ownership is going to push.
Right.
So there's been areas, that's really an area where it's pretty natural, where they already want to change.
Right. It seems like your skill sets of turnarounds, systems, optimization, all of that really aligns with the goals of what PE is trying to do, because they're constantly, they'll acquire a company and they'll want to flip it maybe in a year or 2 or 5 years. So it seems like it's perfectly aligned.
It is, and the other part of the alignment that you and I have talked about before too, that we've also talked about with Jen, and even Jay, as well, is what suite of things could we do? Because I've got a friend that has been in private equity for 25 years. So I get a little bit of, the phrase probably isn't the right one, but a little bit of insider trading, because we've been friends since we were about 8 years old. So we grew up together, and he really kind of lived it on the mergers and acquisition side. And what I learned from him is, and he's been in it for over 25 years. For what I've done, he spent his career completely in private equity. And what he's taught me is they have their own, what they call resource team, whether it's HR, technology, sales and marketing. They have their own on-staff resources. There's really kind of two, but the other, that is one where they have really incredible talent that is really their employees.
Right.
But the other side, the other element of it in private equity is they use outside consulting and contract resources to step in and help with those businesses, and they stay focused on mergers and acquisitions. They'll set the table on what they want to get done, but then they'll look outside. For me, and like you and Jen, Jay, Adam, Kurt, that we've talked about, is what can we do that brings a full scope of things that could be valuable? We all share the same approach. We really want to bring true long-term value. Long-term value, but at the same time, short-term gain in revenue and profit and process improvement. So what are the things that we could bring from my perspective of once I learn and bring in the people that are experts, whether it's you all or Jay or whoever it is, the right resources once that problem is identified.
Yeah, it's a good problem to solve. Yeah, big problem to solve.
Be a lot of fun too.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As we start to end the conversation, as you look back on your career, what is a couple takeaways that, as people are listening to this, that's like, hey, if I could do it all over again, or if I could summarize, here's a couple things that were big that I've learned that I really want to impart on someone, what would those big things be? 1 to 3 things.
I think probably the biggest thing is I'm going to really kind of break it into 3 parts, even though it's kind of one thing. For anybody that is either accountable for people or leading a business, whether you're just getting started, is always monitor the marketplace. And always be mindful and look at your competitors. The worst thing you can do is get complacent. There is a phrase that I think of: when the going gets easy, get uneasy. And that sounds like maybe it makes you a little nervous, but that's really not what that's meant to sound like. What it means is monitor all the time, whether it's the market or your competitors. The second thing is, that we talked about before, have the customer in the room. Really, any business, it sounds pretty fundamental, but you can look at it from, an example from my past would be, you really build your business around, you put a sales plan together, $40 million sales plan. Well, I'm going to build our resources and what we need to provide world-class service from what I get from identifying what those customer needs are. So have that customer in the room. Don't be afraid to engage with them in a different level. Be open to explore. And I would say the third thing, and it's something that I wish, I think I learned it because I was told to early, is learn by doing. And whether you are, we tend to get into, well, I'm an expert in accounting, or, I'm in purchasing, or I'm in customer service. If you're a business leader or you're responsible for really multiple functional areas, even if you're not, even if you're only responsible for sales, for example, go spend a couple of days on a truck. Spend a couple of days in the warehouse. Learn by doing, because sometimes you'll learn and get some insight on a simple fundamental fix that you would never even thought of, and it'll really change your perspective to walk in somebody else's shoes.
Great advice. Great thoughts. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Ron. Really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom. It's been fun.
I appreciate it. It was a fun conversation.